To those of you that are, on the zombie patrol, the Night Walkers, it's getting darker earlier, which is great. Of course, blah, blah, blah. A couple more weeks. We'll be getting dark around 9 o'clock. Congratulations to Liberal Steve, who just told us that he has been released from the hospital. So your prayers have worked. Doug in Mountain Home, I believe that he's out as well. So God bless you, Doug. Thank you very much for everybody that prayed for our two folks going under the knife. We appreciate them. And again, don't forget our free KIDO Talk Radio app. We're looking forward to signing up more people with the App Yap Club. And I believe we're ready to go. All right, back to our great friend Dennis Mansfield, who joins us now. Mr. Mansfield, how are you?
Kevin, I'm doing great. How are you, my friend?
Well, you've got a big announcement this week, and you said, hey, Kevin Miller, we'd like to share it with people before people in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles know about it. So congratulations on your big announcement. Thank you for sharing it with us, sir.
It's my honor. I couldn't think of any better way to start and any better person to do it with. Yeah, we just had the opportunity to see my Empires of Dirt, my 10th book, the second of my trilogy on space-time adventure and history, published by iUniverse. It launched this week with advanced copies being mailed out on Friday. They'll be hitting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for media all across the United States. And we're really looking forward to it. It's, I didn't expect to be an author, certainly not at this age. And after 10 books, the joy of examining history and asking the question, what if, in my first book, that really touched on the issue of what if people had changed or died. It was called To Trust in What We Cannot See, was followed up by this new one, Empires of Dirt, which asked the question, what would have happened had Lincoln and Kennedy and King and Kennedy not been assassinated and gone on to live full lives? What would the nation be like today?
Yeah, I was thinking of you yesterday. How could, if you go back in time, how do you actually frame that as a writer and to be historically accurate?
It was kind of a aha that I had as I was working on some other projects. I have a number of books over the years that authors have signed, and ones that I collected as well that were signed. One, in fact, was Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs, a number of other books, and I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if somehow through the DNA on those books, where the author actually touched it and signed it, you'd be able to, through some force or power, or what I ended up settling on, my sort of DeLorean, was the issue of telluric currents that wrap around the world and have historically been amazing things that inventors and others tackled, but never really answered what are they, to be used as the force that guided, say, the time traveler through it. And so touching the DNA, being a part of that person for a momentary time period, and then immediately being transferred back to the point at which they wrote that signature. That was how I initiated it. And I began just putting the books together, looking at them, saying, what kind of a web would this be? And so the first book was just, I couldn't believe the success of it and the enjoyment of people, even asking the hard question, if you could either change or take out Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky, Tito in 1913 at the same time, what would the 20th century have been like? And then, of course, what would the 21st century? And the reason I chose 1913 was because they all lived around each other. They were in Vienna, Austria, and they lived there right around Cafe Central, which is a beautiful, beautiful place I visited in my research there in Vienna, that they actually had, coffee and hung out together, and the most nefarious people that are in the 20th century ended up playing chess against each other as poor, broke young men, ultimately playing global chess as middle-aged and older, tearing apart the fabric of our globe for World War II. So asking that question, and then dealing with going back to the men who were assassinated, and then what would have happened had Lincoln not died? What would have happened had things changed? And I think the recent July 13th attempt on President Trump's life was a huge what if. I mean, he was just, millimeters away from being shot through the head, and everything, including Biden and Kamala Harris and all the things that are now in motion would not have been in motion, because Biden would have been on his way through, and the great cover-up of his mental instability would have continued to occur, and Pelosi would not have had her way to get rid of him. And all those things that are a part of today's history would have, if that assassin would have been successful. So in all that is the overarching question of, if the players that we see in today's life and times switch, change, or are substituted, if those people move, is there an arc of history that continues on no matter who is in the presidency or who is in whatever position it is? And that's the journey that I take the readers on. And I got to tell you, Kev, it has been fun to see people grab hold of it. And Empires of Dirt has just, through ConvertKit, been really well received by people who wanted to see it online. And so that's how I advanced it a month or so ago, 2 months ago. And now to have the actual book being published and available on Amazon.com or Walmart or any of the other online large Barnes & Noble, et cetera, suppliers, big box places, or really any place that you might want to go online and get it. iUniverse is a great publishing company, and they have it online there as well.
Yeah. Boy, it sounds like we're interviewing a big star. He is a big star. Great friend Dennis Mansfield joining us here with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. I love how you dropped the Nathan Barry ConvertKit, soon to be Kit. Now, I put this on. I haven't written an article about it, but I put it on my social media. Have you been to his offices in downtown Boise yet? Free for Kit members. And ConvertKit, again, a software program developed by Boise's own Nathan Barry. Dennis's great friend. He knows him, known him for many, many years. But you have people now coming in all over the country to do podcasting at this facility. And Dennis, you as a member, you need to go there and do your podcasting, which are, again, I highly recommend. I listen to them all the time. You get those studios now for free.
Yes. In fact, part of the discussion that we're having right now with Just Around the Corner with Dennis Mansfield, our podcast, which, Kevin, you were incredibly instrumental in helping me launch almost 5 years ago now. That particular podcast is by necessity going on a hiatus until the first quarter of 25, and it's for a simple reason. I have a medical procedure that's going to be happening in late November, on November 22nd, and that procedure is involving a heart operation, and so I have got to take a little bit of time off during the holidays in order to get healed and restored based on the open heart surgery that will be happening that particular day. So I haven't made any public announcement until today about that, but there's a reason why. I have really got to be able to let people know while I am healthy, happy, and energetic, to be able to, take interviews and do all those things. So, yeah, things are going to be changing in November for me, and I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Well, I have to tell you, Dennis, we will pray for you. And we've had Liberal Steve just went through a triple bypass. Doug, hang on. Doug just got out of surgery, so we're going to find out how he did. So you're going to be our lucky charm. We've had 3 people go. You'll be our third person going through this, sir.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate that. I was kind of stunned when I found out, actually. I mean, here I am working away on Empires of Dirt and getting it all finished up, and and have the honor of having a tremendous cardiologist who had noted a number of years ago that I had a congenital problem in my heart that it's called a bicuspid valve problem. And so my entire life, all through West Point, all through all the things I've done, that apparently this heart was malformed. And, at that point, we said, well, what do we have to do? And it ended up being that they found there was an aortic aneurysm, which is, I don't want to give an organ recital here on the air. Trust me, it's the last thing I ever want to do. But I found it fascinating that here I am bustling around doing everything. And I got this tick-tock time bomb that they said needed to be fixed. So on the direction of Dr. Dave Sim, who I love and have cherished my 33 years of friendship with him, both as a friend and then as my cardiologist, I decided, let's go through it. They recommended that I go down to Cedars-Sinai, and I decided, no, home is Boise, and we've got some great heart surgeons, and I chose one who, when we met and talked, he'd done 2,000 of these types of valve replacements and aortic aneurysm sleeves. So I'm going to have pen and paper, I think, going into it, and then I'll be strapped down for a little bit. But after that, I'll probably interweave this somehow into my next book.
I can only imagine. Dennis, can you hang on for a minute?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, more with Dennis Mansfield. Doug, hang on too as well. We want to make sure that we hear from Doug, our great friend Dennis Mansfield, joining us. More coming up next. Empires of Dirt. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Dennis, again, we need to get you, and again, our maybe this week or next week, we need to get you in studio for an hour or two just to break down some things. But what did you learn about Lincoln?
Well, one of the things that most people don't realize is that he had two secretaries, John Hay and John G. Nicolay. And in the process of bringing them from Illinois to the White House in 1861, these two young men, who later were called Lincoln's boys, saw everything that Lincoln did. They slept in the White House. They worked in the White House. They were there from the moment he came in to the moment he was assassinated. And they wrote a 10-volume set on Abraham Lincoln, which the research of which was going to be his autobiography, and he had agreed to have them write it. And it was called Abraham Lincoln, A History, volumes 1 through 10. And in the process of that, I was stunned at two things: the humanity of this man who came in saying, it came into the presidency saying, if it takes me destroying slavery to keep the Union, I'll do it. If it takes me allowing slavery to happen to save the Union, I'll do that as well. And the transition point from that to ultimately Emancipation Proclamation and all that he did, that even Stephen Douglas said he wasn't the best, but he was the best that they needed at that time. And so when I look at Lincoln now, I look at him through the eyes of that incredible thing, but I also look at him through the eyes of what Dave Leroy and I have talked about. In fact, Dave Leroy was very helpful to me, and I include him in as a historical footnote in Empires of Dirt, that the Ulysses S. Grant book that I have that has a signature on it found out that he died before they could actually get his signature on autographed copies. So they used a facsimile signature. And yet it was fascinating to find out that Lincoln really did something cowardly in his presidency in 1864 when he had Hannibal Hamlin taken off of the convention floor by saying, let the convention decide who the vice president would be. And of course, Andrew Johnson was it. What I found in my research was most likely Lincoln never really said that. But in fact, John Hay, who was trying to manipulate one of the two secretaries, trying to manipulate so that Lincoln could get the South with him and bring in Andrew Johnson. Well, that was remarkable to me because if you think about it, Andrew Johnson only became president because Lincoln was shot 41 days after Hannibal Hamlin, the first vice president, was taken out, and Andrew Johnson, the second vice president, was brought in. And we had the most horrible post-war situation in America because of the absolute incredibly dirtbag that Andrew Johnson was, and where we could have had an extension of what Lincoln's goals, noble as they were, could have been with Hannibal Hamlin, who was his first vice president. And so those two polar opposites of being a glowing saint and being a scumbag politician gave me the resonance, as I wrote, to be able to say, this is a guy who sweated, farted, and burped. This is a man who had a crazy wife and kids that didn't like him, at least one son that didn't like him. And, of course, he lost Willie, his younger son. There's a man full of sadness and all that, and who bore the burden of the presidency even unto death. And so it brought humanity to Abraham Lincoln, and it took him off of the Lincoln Memorial, took him down from the pedestal for me.
Dennis Mansfield, one more time, how can we get the latest?
Empires of Dirt is my second of 3 books of the trilogy I'm writing about time and space. If you like that, you'll love this. Amazon.com has it. Walmart.com has it. You can Google any of that. If you go to DennisMansfield.com, you can actually pick up the online ebook version through ConvertKit, soon to be Kit, that has it listed there. They're very inexpensive, but they are very rich in content. I hope the people that love history will read this and love the work of these years of research.
Dennis, it's been too long. Let's get you back soon, and you'll be in our prayers, and no worries about that heart procedure, brother.
Thank you, man. I really don't know what to think other than I'm going to go in with the same attitude I've had on my other research and say, wonder what this is all about. It's open heart surgery in November.
Yeah. God bless you, Dennis. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Love you, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Love you. All right. We're so glad that Doug waited. Doug, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for everything, all the prayers and everything everybody did, folks. I mean, nobody's going to tell me that God doesn't answer prayers. I mean, sometimes it's not the answer we want, but this time, for me, it was. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, how did you do? What happened?
No, I'm fine. They did an angiogram. I guess that's what they call. I don't know, Kevin. Mm-hmm. I'm not a doctor. Where they run up one of your arteries. They put 5 stents in me. So, a little conglomeration of metal in it, but I'm breathing a whole lot better. I feel better. So I'm really glad they didn't have to open me up like they did Steve. Steve, I feel for you, and I hope and pray that you come through really well. It's not fun. My dad had 2 of them. So I'm glad I didn't have to get opened up. But anyway, I'm still here. And thank you, like I said, Kevin, for airing that over and people praying for me. I had people praying for me, family-wise, and all over. And it's really neat to see God have his hand on this stuff. So...
Well, God bless you, Doug. Anything else?
Yeah, you know me. I don't have a TV much. I've been down at my son's, staying there while I'm recuperating. And so I've been watching some. But I heard some stuff about England. Have you been watching any of that thing that's going on over in England?
We've talked a little bit about it, but not much. I've been trying to not watch the Olympics.
Nah, yeah. Oh, you've been trying not to watch them?
Yeah, but apparently everybody in the world's watching them. NBC's had record ratings.
Good. Anyway, what I heard from a friend of mine that they just voted in a far left progressive parliament, right?
Yes.
Okay, I heard that the Muslims have taken over that place, and I don't know, this is just hearsay, so that's why I was asking you, but I was told he was watching it, on Newsmax and stuff, and they are burning London up. They're burning England up.
Well, I heard the white people are burning London up because they're tired of getting stabbed because they're white.
Well,
That's what I heard.
All I heard was what Steve said, and he said they've been putting the English people, the Muslims, because they've taken into the parliament, and they've been putting English people in prison for nearly nothing. Well, folks, I mean, that's why I wish it wasn't hearsay. I wish I knew. But, I mean, if they get this far-left progressive movement of what we're seeing in our country, folks, you don't think they ain't going to do that to me and you? Because I've been talking. I mean, they're keeping track of what we're saying. And we've been talking against them. I guarantee you the same type of freaking movement will happen. So, folks, you better stop and think about this. I mean, your freedom is only one generation away, and evil reigns when good people do nothing. So, people, if you're an American, you better stop and listen, and you better pray to God for the healing of this country and for a revelation of God coming into this country. Because it's coming, Kevin. It's going to get ugly.
No, I agree with you. That's why, Doug, I enjoy my time together with us because, like I said, I think they're going to continue to try to erode talk radio, conservative talk radio. And, you take a look at the state of the business today, you're going to have some national people, and they're going to get them eventually, too.
Yeah, it's just like the AM radio thing.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like the guns. That's what's going on in England, folks. It's going on in Australia and stuff. When they disarm you, that's why they're scared to death of the people in this country, is because we're armed, folks. And when you get disarmed, you have no way to fight back. None. I mean, and I don't want to fight, but you can't live under this, folks. All you have to do is look back into history and see everywhere where this has been, they kill you by the millions.
I don't want to be killed.
You can't live under it.
Yeah. No, you're right. Hey, Doug, you calm down and get some rest, all right?
Yep. I'm calmed down, Kevin.
Okay.
I'm really, it's in my spirit. God knows. He's pointing this to me. He's pointing this to a lot of people. You can't live under it. You got to have God in your heart and your spirit.
I agree. I agree with you, sir.
Thank you again.
God bless. Yep.
Keep up the good work. God bless you.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Doug is on the mend. Kevin Merrill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon.
What is that, K Millie?
Yes, K Millie.
Well, I'm not making a wisecrack about it. I'm starting to like the nickname for you.
No, I know, but you laughed at it. And I
so.
tell you, I never really cared for this nickname. It was given to me by the late Fred Hansberger, one of the greatest talk show hosts in the country. And in Idaho, it stuck. So, yes, I've embraced my inner K Millie.
Okay, I'll back off.
All right, buddy, you better.
I liked it, so. Anyway, I thought it would be a good diversionary tactic and maybe make you laugh. Or we got some serious stuff going on out there, Jeff.
I would agree with you.
One being that they keep on almost provoking Iran again to start WW3 and start with the Jews. And I'm not sure why it's taken them so long, but they are doing some. I noticed that the Iranians were doing some exercises together, like they do prepare for war when they do that. You know that. And so that was kind of concerning. But when you're that close to the precipice, cooler heads can prevail, but you don't see a lot of cooler heads in Iran. They only report the ones that are the mullahs, the guys with the donuts on top of their head. And they're so by the book, and that book goes back to the 14th, 16th century. It's kind of outdated. And when they get blood in their eyes, they get blood in their eyes, and that's all they see, and that's all they want. And I think it's possible that we could get out of this somehow without a major skirmish. And we certainly have a show of strength over there right now in the Gulf. That would, if they got the proper information, they'd know that they don't have a way out.
What is Kamala's? What is Kamala's view on Iran?
I have no idea. I haven't even heard of even trying to do anything.
Yeah.
I think it'd be best for her to stay out of this fray, is what I would think. It's still Joe and don't. His big thing is don't.
Yeah.
Don't start something. Don't retaliate.
Well, then she's going on and on about, you have to, we need a ceasefire. We need this. And it's just these empty things that the sycophants that hate America and the media are soaking up.
Well, it's wishful thinking on their part when you think about it, Kevin. There's, you've got a country that was attacked unmercifully and unprovoked in the middle of the morning, basically, and they have blood in their eyes, but they also know that they're going to have to exist where they're at because that's their homeland. They've been waiting thousands of years to get it back, and they finally got it, and they allowed somebody in there that provoked them into a war. They didn't start it. They didn't provoke them to get it going.
Right, they didn't start the fire.
You got to let them do what they want to do in order to make sure they get their people back, their hostages. Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't think Hamas cares much about the hostages. It's just a talking point for Hamas to get some more things out of them. And that's why they took them in the first place. And I think that they split them in half. I think they took half to Gaza, and I think they took the other half to Hezbollah
Yep. That's enough out of you, Poochie. Who's that?
Somebody's at the door. Hello?
Caller?
Okay, thank you.
Caller?
My landlord. I moved into a new place, and I asked him to check in on me, make sure I don't miss work this morning. Anyway, to get back to what I was talking about, half the hostages, I believe, are in Hezbollah territory. They split them up.
Now, wait a minute. You just said somebody checked on you in the morning?
It was my landlord. I just moved into a place, and I couldn't find my alarm.
No, do they like you, though, at this new place?
I don't want to be late for work.
No, I'm with you.
So I had him come over and check on me.
Well, we're a little concerned because usually you call in the early hours, so I'm glad you're going to make it to work today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you? Do you like your new place?
Yeah, I like the area. The neighbors are extremely quiet. It's right across the street from a huge cemetery, so it's going to work out good.
What about who's the little Poochie you have there?
Well, he's got 4 names. Oscar Weiner is one. Oscar Madison is another. Oscar Bin Laden is the other because you never know who's going to show up. And then the last one is Bob Barker. Once he gets started, he doesn't stop.
I see.
Yeah. He's a good little dog, but he's a Chihuahua and he's a minister, and he gets started on something. He's kind of like the Iranians. They don't want to quit. So back to that, I think there's hope, and if we do lose hope, then we're in big trouble. I enjoy your shows each and every day. I did have one question, and I don't want a personal answer between you and your wife, but do you just kind of leave this at the office on Friday, and you don't pick it back up until Sunday early in the morning, or Monday early in the morning?
I will say this. she watches Fox News more than I do. And
Right.
I'm more of I'll watch what the libs are doing or I'll read. But then, she's primarily watches the Fox. I will, as you know, I watch every Sunday show and all that stuff. So I'm always online reading stuff.
Right.
Where, it was so funny because when Tucker was on, every night it was Tucker. I go, man, Tucker, give me a break. But, I think that hopefully that explains it.
That's enough. I'm curious because you have to have a personal private life too as well, and you're married, so that makes it special that you're able to have one with your wife, and you can kind of leave what you need to leave, and then you study up what you need to study up for Monday morning, right?
Well, yeah, I always like to try to explain to her, this is my job. She goes, what, watching TV? I go, yeah, and God bless her, she really, she had me out helping her with the weeds on Sunday morning, which again was a thrill of my lifetime.
I pity the poo.
Oh, I know. And on that one, you and the Chihuahua, Bob Barker, have a great day, Brother Paulie.
Yeah, I'm going to work.
All right.
I got to get over there.
All right. Take care, sir.
Over to the airport.
All right.
You have a great day, too, and your listeners, too. God bless us.
God bless. Bye. Yes. Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
Question of when he left the National Guard. He filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said.
Right. They're protecting this guy, Walls. We'll talk about it next. Would love to hear from you. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller on Idaho's talk station.
KIDO.
KIDO, don't forget the free KIDO Talk Radio app. Also, you'll probably know this if you listen to this program, why anyone who likes Yellowstone should be going to Caldwell this week. Big event going on in Caldwell, Idaho. Coming up, also, the liberals are mad. They say that anytime you're talking about somebody's military service, you're hurting all veterans. We'll talk more about that. But we live to serve. Let's go to Morpheus in Boise with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Morpheus.
Good morning, Kevin. I just wanted to talk about reparations for all these illegals that are coming across the border, and they're found and not to be true asylum. Their asylum claims are proven false. And so I guess the next question is, where does the money come from for reparations? And I believe that should come from the countries of origin. Venezuela's rich in oil. A lot of these countries like China and some of these other places hold our U.S. debt and bonds. And, I don't think it's hard to get a lot of that money back for having footed the bill for these people's education, food, places to live. What do you say?
Well, I think it would be nice, number one, but number two, I think everybody talks a great game, but Morpheus, we should have all these people leave the country. And I don't know if you have to have the liberals, pay for 50% of these people coming in, but look, we're going broke, and the idea that we're clothing and putting people that are here illegally and not doing anything for our veterans or our people that have paid into the system. And I don't know if Dr. Phil can save us or what, but there's a lot of people that hate America that are in power, in the media, in government. They hate America.
For sure, they hate America. I'm just talking dollars and cents here. There's certainly some NGOs that have gotten a lot of money, and there's lobbies for big corporations who've wanted these people.
Sure.
And I think that it wouldn't be hard for accountants, certainly the IRS is good at this, figuring out, where to bill these people for this reparations for the people's money here in America.
Sure, but then you would have the 40 or 50% of the people that would disagree with it. And then who's going to pay? The Chinese are going to tell us to kiss off.
I don't know about that. If it's just a matter of writing a piece of paper from the executive, and if we have control of the executive and control of Congress, and certainly there is a number there and a lot of money that's been spent that I don't think the American people agree with. And then we had all that money, of course, that we were paying the Taliban for terrorism. There's a large amount of money that has been illegally spent. And certainly this money has been put towards illegal means, too. And certainly the DNC and the RNC, parts of the RNC by percentage have contributed to this enticement, the building of camps in South America. All this money that's been put out of the tax dollars, I really don't think that, the majority of Americans agree with.
Well, those that are cognizant, the rest are in the matrix.
Correct. But we're here to wake them up.
You're right. We are. Morpheus,
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for the call. If we just went by common sense, we'd send the bill to China and to Mexico.
Good morning, Kevin. From the G&G Insulation Studio, traffic on freeway coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. We're looking good. No major problems or delays there. We do have an injury accident working Highway 16 and Beacon Light. That's going to affect traffic coming and going from the Emmett area. With the new multiplier games from the Idaho Lottery, every scratch is a chance to multiply your win from 2 times up to 20 times. More wins, more
Fighting. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. It's been a while since we've had our friend Senator Bob Smith joining us today. Senator, how you been?
Pretty good, Kevin. How about you?
Boy, can you believe we've been doing this for almost 30 years, brother? You were our first big get years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time. A lot of water under the bridge. Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever seen or never expected to see anything like the political climate we have right now.
No, I totally would agree with you on that. Your former employee, otherwise known as my mom, Pat Miller, said, she's always talking about the senator. And she goes, you need to get the senator on. I always call you the senator. She calls you Bob. But she says, you need to get the senator on to talk about Steve Sims and the relationship that you all had while you both were in Congress, sir.
Yeah. Before I get to that, I would just say it took me 30 years to finally get your mom to call me Bob, but she does now. We are beyond the employee-employer relationship now. We're just friends, and that's good. But I finally got her convinced. And, yeah. I know you have some VIPs out there from the East, including your mom and some other guy.
Yeah, some guy.
I think, called your dad.
Yeah.
But they were very excited about coming out to see you. So, yeah, I'm glad that I did have the opportunity to comment about Steve Sims because I have a lot to say, really, and I know that your listeners were certainly thought a lot of him, and he spoke all the time about the people of Idaho and how much he enjoyed representing them. Our paths crossed. We only served together for a couple of years, as it turned out. I came to the Senate in 1990, and Steve left in '93. But he was, when I came in, I was most of the Western conservatives like Sims and Malcolm Wallop and others of that era were kind of standoffish to some guy from the Northeast. There's here's another Northeastern Republican, kind of a little bit too liberal. But after they found out and watched my voting record and watched me operate, they realized I was not the traditional New England liberal for sure. I was a hard conservative, just like they were. And what really impressed me, and feel free to interrupt for a question, I don't want to monopolize all the time, but what really impressed me about Steve Symms was he, you know, I came in, I had been in the House for 6 years. He had been in the House as well. But, you know, you kind of take your time to make friends. Who am I going to hang out with? And he was always very receptive to talking about how things were going. And he I don't want to say he took me under his wing, but he certainly inspired me, very much so. He was one of those, you know, quiet, kind of unassuming guys, but a dedicated, strong conservative. When he said something, you listened. But the big thing that I hope that, and I'm pretty sure that your listeners and all of his constituents understood, was Steve came in the Reagan Revolution like I did. And these were the times when everybody was making fun of the so-called Star Wars missile defense, you know, instead of SDI, which is really what it was, Strategic Defense Initiative. And he was a leader, along with myself and Malcolm Rolfe and several other senators, to try to push that program. And I was on the Armed Forces Committee, and we were able to, you know, really mobilize support for that against people who were really opposed to it, including the current president of the United States, Joe Biden. He called it Reagan's folly and made fun of it, said it was stupid, all kinds of words. And now, were it not for missile defense, look at what's going on in the Middle East. He's now dependent upon those missiles, not only to preserve Israel, but also to maybe at some point to preserve the United States of America, you know, with the so-called, you know, CAP or Iron Dome. So he was a leader in that, and I mean a leader, and we had a hard time, and Bill Clinton and so many others of the time were against it. And they really pushed hard to knock it down and to make fun of it. So we owe a lot to Steve Symms, and not only just the constituents of Idaho, but the constituents of America.
How is Congress different than it is today, sir?
Well, of course, I left in 2003, Kevin. So, you know, I don't know. Since I don't serve there now, I can go by what I read and what I see. The hate, I don't want to say hate, but maybe there is some hate, but the absolute acrimony, just for the pure sake of acrimony. I mean, I remember Nancy Pelosi tearing up President Trump's speech, in front of a joint session. That was uncalled for. That kind of stuff. I mean, Steve was like I was. You know, you could argue with Ted Kennedy on the floor, and then you sit down and have a beer and forget it. I mean, you know, when they're entitled to their opinion. And frankly, I respected people, even Ted Kennedy, who you knew what he believed. You know, he didn't hide it like we got now with somebody, Harris, running around the country refusing to talk and changing her positions and adopting Trump positions and not meeting with the media. I mean, that's what's different. I mean, Reagan would sit down with Tip O'Neill and they'd have a drink and laugh and make fun of each other privately, but they didn't take it out of the political realm. You know what I mean? They left it, and everybody understood the political realm and what had to be said. I think that's the difference. I mean, I just see hardcore hate for Trump that seems to just spill over into politics in general. And my wife Mary Jo and I had the opportunity to meet with President Trump for a half hour privately. It was wonderful. I won't go through how it all happened, but it worked out through a mutual friend. And it was wonderful. I mean, he was kind and considerate and soft-spoken and emotional, you know, and I remember him saying, you know, I don't want to compromise anything President Trump said privately to me, but he said, you know, I came down the escalator. I wanted to make America, well, I don't want to use the term make America great again, but I wanted to help America. I wanted to bring us back to our constitutional roots, you know, and bring back our sovereignty and do these things. And then all this hate and these lies about the Trump, you know, the Russian all that garbage and the Russian hoax, and then, you know, indictments and impeachments and all this crap. He said, you know, I just don't understand it. And I said, well, politics is really mean-spirited these days. And he was very much emotional, very taken aback by it, because he wanted to really do good things for America, and he did, in spite of all that. But that's the difference that I see. I mean, I don't see the collegiality that you could have after your political debate that we used to have.
More coming up with our friend Senator Bob Smith next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And, of course, this presidential election, Senator, how do you see it breaking down?
Well, it certainly has changed, I think, obviously. I think I don't know how we break through this business of Harris not speaking to the media, changing positions, and doing these things with no accountability to the media. And we basically might as well call, NBC and CBS and all these networks, ABC, CNN, might as well call them Pravda, because they're working with the left, and they're not allowing the truth to come out. But it's clear to me that there's a big crime here, if you want to call it that. Certainly a terrible thing happened when all of these people, including Harris and the administration and the media, covered up the fact that President Biden was seriously deficient. I mean, he was in the dementia area, and my father-in-law died of Alzheimer's. I'm not making fun of it in any way. I understand how terrible it is, and you're in and you're out. But to cover that up, as they all did, you can't tell me that Harris, who worked on a day-to-day basis with President Biden, wouldn't know that this man was having these lapses and problems. So that was covered up, and that's a major, major issue that she should be held accountable for, at least questioned on, not to mention her changing positions. I'm totally against fracking, and now we don't know what she is because she's not saying. And then she picked up in Nevada the other day, saying, well, I'm going to support elimination of the taxes on tips, when, of course, we know that she's in an administration that hired I don't know how many thousand IRS agents to continue to go after people, waitresses and other service providers who didn't pay. So these are questions that she's got to be asked. And if the press isn't going to do it, then I guess it's just going to have to be done through advertising. But it really is a sad state of affairs that this kind of thing is happening in national politics. And I hope that even people who may not totally agree with President Trump on many, many things, but understand this is a serious, serious matter. And one other thing I would mention is if you are a Democrat listening to me, or somebody who's undecided, Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat, ran for president of the United States, was here in New Hampshire, was very impressive. I saw her here. She campaigned here. A very impressive person. I didn't agree with her on everything, but she was very impressive. And then we now find that by her own admission on TV the other day, she said that she's being pursued by the government now as a danger on the terrorist watch list, with these agents riding with her on airplanes and searching her from head to toe and going through all of her luggage. Here's a former congresswoman, a person who served her country in Iraq, a military officer in the reserves, to be treated like that. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. And I don't care what your politics are. Look into it and wise up, because this is the kind of thing that can bring America down in a hurry. I just don't see the kind of politics and the person she picked as a running mate who thinks just like her on so many things, putting tampons in boys' bathrooms. I mean, all this kind of stuff. This is crazy stuff. And we really, President Trump needs you out there now. I know I'm not too worried about Idaho, but if you know anybody in another state where it might be a swing state, please call and try to persuade people to get on board with President Trump.
Let me ask you about, and again, you guys have been around, but do you remember anything significant about Joe Biden back in your days together in the Senate?
I do, Kevin, and it's very hard for me to say, because one of the things that I pretty much made a commitment to, people always, you didn't, but you haven't, but people will say to me, well, who was the biggest SOB in the Senate, or who did you dislike, or who did you even like I didn't mind the question about who you liked the most, but who did you dislike, and what do you know, any dirt on somebody, and that kind of thing. But I can honestly say that Joe Biden was not respected in the Senate. I would remember many occasions riding the elevator up to a vote, and there'd be 2 or 3 Democrats on the elevator, and they'd, Biden's up there speaking, Dan. Oh my God, we're going to have to listen to a half hour of nonsense and stuff. He was not respected. He was considered very, I don't know, he just was not considered a serious person. But, that's then. But now he's gone. He's off the radar as far as a candidate is concerned, but he's still supposedly running the country, which I don't think he's doing. But I think the fact that he went from at least being a person who was able to function, who wasn't mentally deficient, to what he is now is a major crime, if you will, if certainly not an embarrassment to the country that should be exposed. And the fact that the media would unite, with the Democrats and the left to hide this is really beyond comprehension. But the biggest thing that I remember, and I alluded to it when I was talking about Steve Sims, about Biden, was his absolute animosity and dislike for military, against missile defense and any new technology that had to do with our military. Because I served on the Armed Services Committee. I was the chairman of the Acquisition and Technology Committee, where we looked at these new programs like SDI, and we had to fund it. You don't have these programs. You don't have the Iron Dome today without guys like Steve Sims funding it 20, 30 years ago. And Biden was opposed to all that, very outspoken, very much so, mocking Reagan, calling him stupid and all this kind of stuff. And so he was wrong. I can't remember who it was, a former Secretary of Defense or someone said that he was wrong on everything when it came to foreign policy, and he was. But he is the issue to this extent now that he's dropped out. He's the issue because Paris was part of the administration. You can't run away from the fact that they did this to the American people. You can't run away from the policies, the open borders that allow immigrants to pour in here by the millions, including terrorists, and this is going to affect our country down the road, years to come. So that's what I'm concerned about, and that's what I hope will be exposed in this campaign. And I hope the American people can put aside any personal animosity they might have for President Trump and look at what's at stake here. This is very, very scary, and I've been at this business a long time. I first started running in 1978, and I've been I've followed presidential campaigns, and I've served the Senate and the House. I've been involved in a lot of very tough issues over the years, including 2 wars in the Gulf, big Supreme Court nominations like Clarence Thomas and others. And this is a huge, huge problem for America, and we've got to wake up. Pat Buchanan used to write about this all the time, about our America's days coming to an end. And if they do come to an end, it's going to be because of the people inside, not a foreign aggressor. It's going to come from people making serious mistakes, errors in judgment, and I hope that we can wake up to this.
Our great friend, Senator Bob Smith, with us here. Kevin Mellon in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of the deep state? I mean, we take a look at the assassination attempt on the former president, the Secret Service breaking into the beauty salon. Government at the highest levels. What do you think is going on with that?
That's a really good question, and I think it goes to the heart, Kevin, of what's going on in America. As you recall, many, many years ago in the 90s, I briefly left the Republican Party, not for any other reason other than to protest what I was seeing happening. And what I saw when I came to Congress, I was a school teacher. I taught the Constitution. I ran a small business. I was not political. I wasn't involved with the state legislature or any other state government or anything. I just came as a private citizen, Bob Smith, private citizen, school board member, teacher, businessman, and ran for Congress. and I went door to door, literally, all over my congressional district in New Hampshire, and was able to win after three tries. But as I got there and I began to participate, I began to feel like I was a minority in a minority. At that time, the Republicans were deep in the minority in the House. I mean, we only had 160, 170 members. The Democrats outran it. They ran over us with like bulldozers through the bushes, and they threw us little bones now and then to shut us up. But the Republican Party, I saw it began to evolve as I was there into this. They were moving away from sovereignty with agreements like GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and what's the other one?
NAFTA and the WTO.
NAFTA, thank you. NAFTA. I voted against those because I could see our sovereignty being drained away, and everything was international. It was these big international conglomerates like Bank of America. I'm not picking on Bank of America, but they're an international conglomerate. Who do they owe their allegiance to? Who do these large corporations now that are controlling all the social media? Who controls these people? They're almost individual entities. And what I saw, Kevin, and I look back on it, and I think I used to teach the Constitution to high school kids, and I'm thinking, holy mackerel, how did I miss this? But what I saw was a gradual movement away from our sovereignty. Our borders opened up so that, we are the example of the world. We are the experiment, the democratic or republic, if you will, Republican, small r, example of how the English created this opportunity. They had a king, but then because of the Hobbes and Locke and the great philosophers, they were able to see that there was this natural law here that we had rights as people, not given to us from any government, but came from a higher authority. And we created this place called the United States of America. And now it was always a shining light, a beacon. Reagan used to call it the shining city on the hill, where people wanted to come here. They wanted to come to America. They wanted to work. They wanted to roll up their sleeves and contribute. They were proud to go take the oath. I probably witnessed and administered 100, 200, maybe 300 oaths to individuals, sometimes one or two at a time, who came here as new American citizens from all over the world. But I saw with these international agreements and open borders and all this kind of stuff, I'm saying, holy mackerel, our country is going to kill itself. If you take a glass of orange juice and keep pouring water into it, eventually it's not going to be water or orange juice. It's just going to be a mess. And that's what we're doing to ourselves. And it almost makes me want to cry. I mean, I look back now as an elder statesman of someone who served there and gave it my all for 18 years in the Congress. And then I see this happening and I say, my goodness. I mean, and that's what the deep state is. It's Republicans and Democrats, both. Not all, but both. It's lobbyists. It's the people who control the media, and now the big social media. This is a conglomerate, a cabal of individuals. I mean, it may not be headed by one person. People make fun of you. Oh, you're a conspiratorialist and all that. No, I'm not. This is a fact. This is what it is. And when if I had a bill, we wanted to do something. Maybe we wanted to build an airplane. Next thing you know, you got 10 lobbyists coming in. Oh, this company wants to build the plane. That company wants to build the plane. Then they want to write your law. They want to write your bill. They want to take over. This is what's happening to our country. And these people that in power now, it's worse, Kevin. It's so bad. I hope I can convey my emotion to your listeners that they understand. These people now, when you spy on somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard, when I left Congress, I formed a little group called the American Patriot Foundation. It didn't go anywhere, but I was going to have a little group, to kind of, educational thing. When Obama took over, the IRS came after me with this little tiny pack that I had and made me do a whole bunch of accounting stuff. That was the beginning. And this is what's happening. Look at what they did to President Trump. I mean, the Russian thing was a total hoax. It was proven. No one's been held accountable. All the things that happened with the communist China thing with Biden, no one's being held accountable. They're sicking people on private citizens. The Catholic Church was spied upon. I mean, you've got to get beyond the people and say to yourself, the candidates, yes, they matter. The candidates matter, but my country matters more. And how do I stop this? And you can't just put your head in the sand and say, I've got to step up. I've got to step up and stop it. And that's what the deep state is. It is exactly. And see, when President Trump came in, if you stop and think about it, how many people I don't believe there are any. I could be wrong. I don't think there are any people who have been elected president of the United States who were not politicians other than generals. Now, maybe I missed one somewhere, but I don't think so. They were all political people who came from the political world, and Trump did not. He came from a world of business where I make decisions. If they're bad decisions, I pay the price. Maybe I lose money. Maybe I lose my business. Maybe I go bankrupt. If I'm successful, I can ride the wave and take the glory. And Trump he's not afraid to make decisions. He's a strong person. He's willing to take this on. The man was almost assassinated, and as you mentioned in your question, and look at what happened. There were so many screw-ups that makes you wonder what the hell happened here. How could somebody said the other day on TV, well, maybe they just say, you know what, it's Trump, who cares? We don't need to cover him that much. It's Trump. Don't let things go. I'm not saying anything was deliberate, other than what was deliberate was they didn't give him the protection that he asked for and that he needed. They didn't give it to Robert Kennedy Jr. either. Here he has his father and his uncle assassinated, and Biden wouldn't give him protection. This is serious business, and we need to wake up or it's going to be too late. And I'll tell you, and this is, I don't know how long you want to go, but I want to say one more thing. The Constitution, I used to tell my kids, it's only a piece of paper. It's what we put behind it that makes it the great document that it is. The fact that we believe in it, that we support it, that we respect it, that we don't compromise it, that we don't rip it up. And that's what's happening when you have your own government spying on you. When you people like Tulsi Gabbard and Catholic parishioners, or Right to Life people, whoever they are, I don't care which side of the aisle they're on. This is dangerous business. In our country, if somebody decides down the road in a government that's way to the left, well, we don't need this Constitution anymore. Let's hold a constitutional convention and let's rip it up and let's start all over again. I mean, don't think this can't happen. Don't think it can't happen. And that's where we are in this world. And it is the deep state, and it's almost impossible to defeat because of the media who are so powerful. Now, Elon Musk is a breath of fresh air. We need more people with his integrity. He's not an arch conservative, but he's an honest man who believes that we should have an honest media. And we need people like that, more people like that, to get involved.
Well, Senator, we need to have you back. We appreciate the passion. It's been a while. We so appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity, and I am passionate about this, and I know that Steve Sims, were he here right now, would feel the same way. And in honor of him, if nothing else, let's move forward. I know Idaho. I believe the citizens of Idaho have got it right, but I wish I could say that about some of the other states. But let's just hope and say our prayers and pray for Trump and hope everything goes well in November.
We've both come a long way from Nashua.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. If I could tell you real quick, 10 seconds, I always remember the story when we were driving through North Carolina and we heard you on the radio from Iraq and your mother didn't know. And I turned to my wife and I said, what are we going to tell Pat? I said, I'm not telling Pat anything. I'll let Kevin tell Pat when he gets home.
Yeah,
she didn't know you went.
I know. I was so thankful you didn't bust me on that one, Senator Smith. Thank you.
I wouldn't do that. Well, you've done a lot with your voice. Your voice is, and I've heard about you from others. When I was in the Congress, I would hear your congressmen and your senators were always talking about you. That's the truth. So you do a lot, and it's appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity back in the day, sir. You take care.
Okay. Have a good one, Kevin.
Okay, you too, sir. Our great friend, Senator Bob Smith. We'll take your calls next. Kevin Miller. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Stop freaking. Call Beacon. KIDO Talk Radio app. Let's go to Tea Party Bob, who joins us now. The bell of the ball on KIDO Talk Radio.
You know, Mr. Miller, I could listen to that gentleman for hours.
Oh, Senator
he is
Smith.
So right on about the stuff he's talking about. I hope you'll bring him back again if you can. I only wish we had more politicians like him in Idaho. Maybe you can get him to move here. Anyway, I wanted to chat a little bit about what you were talking about earlier about the solar farms, and I just want to kind of ad-lib this today. You know, I came here in '93, and I moved to New Meadows, and in 2004, I moved down to Meridian. I was there for 15 years, which is when I got involved with the Tea Party and got involved in politics, especially in testifying down at the State House about different things that were going on. But what was interesting to me and what I have seen happen is a state and a Treasure Valley that was growing at an unbelievable pace, very much like it's growing right now, only it's even faster. And there's a reason for it. And I've said this before. The reason is they keep bringing bigger and bigger businesses into Idaho. And while it's good for the economy, it's not good for the people because the infrastructure never keeps up with it. The businesses never pay for the cost of the infrastructure that's needed to supply them with the people they need to run these places. You know, our state, for the most part, has been a place of small businesses that have thrived here for many years. But that all changed with the advent of IACI around 2000. And, you know, this group became a very powerful lobby. They pushed government to incentivize big businesses to move here, enticing them with all kinds of tax breaks. And basically, they were giving the businesses our tax money. And we were the ones who were going to, and still do suffer, because they never planned for any of the infrastructure or how they were going to pay for it. And the real cause of this is the real cause of the congestion we're currently dealing with. You know, Idaho had for many years been a small business community. And by most measures, it still is small business. That still makes up 53.6% of the workforce. And businesses with fewer than 20 employees make up 97% of small businesses. So Idaho's tax incentives have gone almost 100% for bringing in big business here, and small businesses have been completely ignored. So at the same time, we as a state have become so dependent on the federal government for money to help pay our bills that 40% of our budget is now paid by them. Don't think for a minute that this is free money, because Idaho has been paying them by giving them more influence in our government decisions. So, and as I have said many times, the federal government, they're not giving us the money for free. They're getting something back for it. Why do you think the BLM got the permit to do the Lava Ridge project with 600-foot tall windmills and this solar farm that's going to take up hundreds of acres of farmland? And yet we're still looking at this huge project with Micron that's going to bring in 20,000 workers and 6,500 employees. Who do you think is going to pay for that infrastructure? We subsidize.
Right, but not only that, but you're talking about the impact on the environment that no one is bringing up.
Exactly. And they have already done the environmental studies on these things. You know, when the government subsidizes something, everybody wants to get involved. Sure, let's put up a solar farm, a wind farm, any kind of farm you want, except for a farm that grows real food. I don't have much else to say. I just wanted to get my 2 cents in here, if I could.
No, you saved up a lot, I can tell.
Once again, I thank you very much for my time, and thank you for having Bob on. He is just wonderful to listen to.
Yeah, it's been a while, and you know he was targeted by the Karl Roves and people within the Republican Party because he was too conservative.
Karl Roves he's a weasel.
You're not a weasel.
Not me, my friend. Not me. I'm a good guy, supposedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, government don't like me, but I guess most people do. I hope you have a wonderful day today.
All right. God bless, and you too.
Thank you, my
Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We always like to keep you up to date on the latest information. And, of course, we are starting the Camilla Watch. When will she meet with the media? When will she answer the big questions? And when will the media not be in the tank for her? Makes you wonder, right?
Wanted debate. Kamala Harris is
he's accepted
former
3.
prosecutor.
He
said
yes to September 4th, September 10th, September 17th. He said yes to a lot of them. So it's not that he's obviously afraid to debate.
No. So no. He had agreed to September 10th. Well, on ABC.
With Biden, who got pushed out.
What's the difference? Why should he not debate whoever the candidate is on September 10th as he agreed to? What is the difference between candidate Biden and candidate Harris?
He said he would do it. I'm just saying he's also agreed to other debates. You said he hasn't agreed to others. He has. It's the Kamala Harris campaign that hasn't agreed on the other side.
There we have it. Representative Dan Goldman getting smacked by Brett Baer saying, look, he's accepted debates and she is ducking the Donald. She is ducking the Donald. Makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, indeed, who is actually running the big show. Speaking of which, if you missed any of our conversations today, you can always go to the podcast section of the website. Huge interview there with our friend Senator Bob Smith, who has served our community so well. I do want to thank remote booker Pat Miller, my mom, for booking that segment. We appreciate that. I've forgotten how passionate and the experience and how powerful the interview with Senator Smith has over the years. And, just as a side note, it's a little joke now in our family. And I'm trying to think, I think that was before I had my 2 little angels, Bama and Carolina, that in 2006, we took the show to Iraq for the first time. And that was with the North Carolina National Guard. And we literally broadcast the show from Iraq. If you go to YouTube, Kevin Miller, Iraq, there is, we're actually doing the show as we're getting mortared and such, and we did it live. And even when, thankfully, to the 116th Combat Cavalry Brigade, that we did the show live when we were in Iraq with them, it was, you don't tell anybody. And, I told my mom and my dad the last time, but I didn't tell them the first time I went because I didn't want them to worry. And Senator Smith and his lovely wife, Mary Jo, happened to be traveling through the state I lived in at the time, North Carolina. And he heard it on the radio, and then he saw me on local television doing live reports from Balakashir was Turkey. No, it was Al-Assad and Mortaridaville, I believe, Bagram and all sorts of places. It gets confusing after a while. But again, an amazing time being with those troops. And that is available on YouTube, by the way. And a lot of our footage from Iraq that we went to with our friends in the Combat Cavalry Brigade here in Boise. I love the cavalry unit. They were great. And, Air Cav is not the only Cav, according to them. And it was very nice of them to allow us to try as hard as we could to share their stories of courage. And you think about that. That was such a long time ago. And yet here we have it. A lot of people are wondering, what this all means. Well, take a look at this. This is the latest ad from President Trump, or Western Lindsman, who's taking a look at this. And, you talk about the courage of people that go into combat, and then you have this guy.
To be a heartbeat away from Commander-in-Chief. But Tim Walz has lied about his military record for years.
He's used the rank that he never achieved in order to advance his political career.
Walz lied repeatedly about his rank.
Retired Command Sergeant Major. Retired Command Sergeant Major. Command Sergeant Major. Retired Command Sergeant Major.
Walz lied about being in combat.
And make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war,
Walz dodged deployment by retiring when he knew his National Guard unit was going to Iraq.
Everybody knew they were going to train and go to Iraq. The warning order basically stated it, and too much later after he knew it, that's when he retired.
Walz disparaged Minnesota National Guard soldiers.
Mayor said, I request the National Guard. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks.
That same Minnesota National Guard that he disparaged, unlike Walz, served heroically in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tim Walz is not fit to be anywhere near the office of Commander-in-Chief.
There we have it. By the way, those ads are going to be running. He's a disaster. Thank you to Sweet William for letting us know when we were. We were at Joint Base Balad in Iraq. For those of you that have been there, also nicknamed Mortaritaville and Camp Anaconda. It was part Air Force, part Army. And it was just, again, the people that volunteered to go, the people that volunteered to fight, that faced unprecedented dangers, and their courage is, second to none. And then we have a guy, and look, there's nothing wrong with your unit being deployed. And unlike the junior enlisted folks or the people that keep their word, you decide to peace out. But don't sit back and brag and talk about the weapons of war and talk about how you have PTSD because you decided to be an opportunistic politician and run for Congress. It's one thing to serve. It's another thing to lie about your service. And here we have Kamala, who is running wild, and the media is in the tank for her. And then you have this guy, Minnesota Walz, who is sitting and doing his own thing and is a liar, is a socialist. Tiananmen Tim, Tampon Tim. I know in Idaho we don't really respond to name calling, but these are accurate things. No border Tim, ladder Tim, Timmy Tim Tim. Are we looking at this? I love this, the idea that they're going to fix things. Well, they did it. And to bring us back, are we talking about bringing us back to what? The 70s? The economic turmoil that we're in right now rivals the 70s. Rivals the heartbreak, the cost, the inflation, the hopelessness. And just like in the 70s, unfortunately now we have hostages. Hostages indeed. And are we going to get them home? Are they still alive? Fox News. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, at least in Idaho. Ryan, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Whenever I get to you, usually, if it's like the 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock hour, I've already done like 12 of these hits. So I'm always like, getting burnt out, getting tired, getting grumpy. Might be time to turn on you one day, Kevin. Heel turn.
I could see that happening. I sense that really in our daily interactions, Ryan. I do.
It's my excuse to not say I don't like you.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I can't stand you. I got to turn heel on you now.
You're going to put the boots to me soon.
Yeah, just turn that way. I'll hit you in the back of the head with a chair when you turn.
That's right. Don't turn your back on me. Yeah, I totally. You're speaking my language. I really understand it.
I know. I always feel so bad. I was like, oh my God, I was such in a bad mood with Kevin today. Oh well, at least it's Kevin.
Yes, exactly. It's hold on. It's not like it's anybody good. At least it's Kevin, and I wholly believe that when I'm saying it. So, Ryan, let's talk.
I think it's more so it's actually a nice guy.
Well, look, I'm a big fan. You're in the moment, and you deserve the spotlight and the ring entrance and everything else. So.
Oh, appreciate it.
No, it's all true. Let me get to today. Apparently, people are going to continue to investigate what happened in Afghanistan, sir?
They are, yes. But there has been a little bit of pushback about how the investigation has been handled. So you have this man by the name of Jerry Dunleavy, who's an investigator who was working on the case with the Foreign Affairs Committee, but he has resigned, and he claims that the chairman, Michael McCall out of Texas, also a Republican, has failed to, quote, seek proper documents bring in the proper witnesses, to ask the tough questions, to fully pursue the truth without fear or favor, and to do everything in the committee's power to ensure that a deadly humiliation like this never happens again. Now, McCall's team did respond to this and push back on it, saying that they are going to have an investigation that's released probably early next month. I believe we're looking at September 9th as the possible day that it's released. But he has claimed, the spokesperson claims that, when that comes out, this will be evident in a few weeks, that this expansive report, which is the result of thousands of hours of work on both the staff and member level, its release will not be the end of our work, but a crucial next step towards ensuring the personal accountability that the Biden-Harris administration refused to provide.
Sounds like they're going to be busy.
They certainly will be, but I think this is quite substantial to see somebody blowing the whistle like this, especially when, Chairman McCall's committee has not had maybe some of the pushback, maybe some of the noise that some of the other Republican committees have had this Congress. It's been a pretty, quiet committee considering the fact they've been investigating probably one of the biggest, I don't want to use the word scandals, but maybe the biggest issues that the Biden-Harris administration has faced since they took office, which was the Afghanistan withdrawal.
You're right. You're right, Ryan. We appreciate you. You have a good one, brother.
Of course, Kevin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Our great friend Ryan Schmelz. That's the national. Let's go to local. Mike Tracy, the guru of politics, joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. I don't know if I'd say guru, but certainly I've been involved in politics for a long time and always enjoy talking politics and both local, regional, and national and international with you at any time because we're facing challenges at every level right now with local. I never cease to be amazed at how many different ways we have people trying to raise our taxes. And one of the reasons that people are fleeing California and coming up here in record numbers from California, I think it was a couple of years ago when they did the census in California, they had lost somewhere in the neighborhood of the equivalent of 2 congressional seats. They lost 2 congressional seats. It was the first time in California history they lost them. That's because people were fleeing the state and coming up here to other locations to flee taxes, high electric bills. I was just reading an article yesterday and this morning about a California town outside of San Diego where the rent for this place was around $1,200, but the electric bill was $1,860 some odd dollars for electric bill for 1 month. I mean, that's staggering. I don't even know how you begin to make those payments and survive as a business. So anyway, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, give you input on anything you're looking at today, Kevin.
Well, Mike, first of all, for people that want to get a hold of you, maybe they want to run a campaign, maybe they want to talk about issues, how can they do that?
Well, it's pretty easy. They just call Mike Tracy at Tracy Consult, 208-863-3940. That's 208-863-3940, and I'll be happy to help them.
Well, Mike, let's take a look at where we are on the national stage. Not a lot going on locally, but we're starting to get some sparks locally. But on the national stage, what do you think is going on with this love affair with the vice president?
Well, it's disheartening to say the least. We're on right after July 13th when the president was shot. You saw all of this glowing coverage of President Trump as being a hero, and quickly the Democrat machine went into full-blown operation and got rid of the president of the United States, got him to move aside for something we'd never really seen in history, and he quickly raised the vice president to national status within days. And it was a brilliant chess move because they did it without casting a single shot. They didn't have to shoot anybody. They didn't have to cast a single vote. They got Joe Biden to step aside, and they essentially knighted her or made her queen, and she didn't have to do anything to earn it. She didn't have to get any votes in a primary. She didn't have to do anything. And the Democrats that voted for her have got to be very upset. And if they're not upset, they should be, because their vote for Joe Biden obviously didn't count for anything, because they were all flipped over to her. Those 14 million plus votes that went for Joe Biden are all of a sudden sitting in her camp. There's something that just doesn't seem right about that, and I don't think it sits well with voters who are thinking and not just paying attention to the national landscape and paying attention to what the national media that is really they're in the camp of Kamala because they're the national press, they're the mainstream press.
Mike Tracy joining us, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. You bring up a very good point. We've never seen anything in our country's history where we've had a candidate that hasn't been vetted through the process. Now, we could argue because of assassinations, but of LB, with LBJ and maybe Gerald Ford with Nixon, but this is something that we haven't seen, where a president voluntarily steps down, and we have someone that tried to run and failed miserably at it.
Yeah, when she ran in 2019, 2020, and she dropped out just before the Iowa caucus, that was punishing. She spent a lot of time and money out on the stump, and she was given a gift after that happened. When Joe Biden was selected as the nominee, he made it plain that he was going to hire a woman of color. And because she stepped back and she was willing to play the game, she got the slot. And, she played the game exactly as she needed to. Her handlers in California, Willie Brown, Nancy Pelosi, and others, all came to her support and defense, and they manipulated these strategies with her over a period of time, and she's now in a really strong position. I'm hopeful the people of America will have a chance to see her in some interviews, and if they get a chance to see her in a real face-to-face debate with Donald Trump, I'd like to see 2 or 3, because I don't think she can handle one debate with Donald Trump. But if she has to do 2 or 3 of them, I think she's going to really show herself to be what she really is. And there's not much there. She might actually be a nice person. I have no idea. The reports are not that she's not a very nice person behind the scenes. But I'd like to see what her policy positions actually are. We don't know, because they used to be a certain way in 2019, and today she's flip-flopped on almost all of those issues.
Right. And you have to wonder, is she going to ban fracking? Is she going to ban the border agents? What is she going to do? What do you make of her alleged popularity right now? Is it real?
Well, I don't think it's real. I just think it's the Democrat machine as much as anything. And when I look at those polls, I always look at, are they registered voters? Are they likely voters? Are they, it's a big deal. And right now, the national average that I've seen is where Trump's at around 49%, Harris is at around 45%. And RFK Jr. Is at about 3.5% to 4%. And so, if that's the case, Trump should win fairly handily. I think her popularity is strictly based on the base of the Democrat Party, much like Donald Trump has got a strong base with the Republicans and the conservatives of America, and her popularity is more about that strong Democrat base, people falling in line, rather than anything that's really, that she's demonstrated that makes her popular. I mean, she doesn't do anything except cackle. And I've been thinking of acronyms to come up with like Cackling Kamala and things like that. People have come up with a lot of nicknames for her pretty easily because she just offers so many so easily.
Our great friend Mike Tracy with us, giving us the political analysis nationally and regionally and locally. We'll get to that in a minute. How do you see we've been telling people to batten down the hatches next week. This big DNC serenading going on in Chicago. Your thoughts?
Well, I think, unlike the Republican National Convention, I think there's going to be a giant tune-out. I think there might be some highlights that people watch, but I don't know that it's going to be watched anywhere as closely as the RNC. The Republican National Convention was because it happened. The RNC convention happened right after Donald Trump was shot, and he showed up. He was shot on Saturday, and he showed up on Monday at the convention with a big bandage on his ear, and he was looking like a hero to the nation when he came up from behind that podium, thrusting his fist in the air. It just showed his power and his strength, and I just don't see that same kind of enthusiasm. The media will hype the heck out of it, but the American people are not. I don't see how they can be near as enthusiastic about a candidate that essentially offers nothing. We have seen nothing come out of on the policy positions, and for her to have a website with no policy issues whatsoever on the website is a staggering concept to me. I would be embarrassed to put up a website like that for a candidate without having a policy page populate that website. And until she gets that website populated, it's going to be hard to criticize her on issues other than her flip-flops because she has nothing that's populating the website with policy issues and the details of those policies.
More with our great friend Mike Tracy coming up next. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us, Mike is a political analyst, political consultant. He doesn't like the title guru, but Mike, comparatively speaking to me, you are our guru. So welcome back. And if people want to get a hold of you, and you handle big campaigns, small campaigns, whether people are fighting the solar industry, whether people want their voice heard, you're there for them.
Well, I thank you for that, Kevin. If people do want to get a hold of me, they can call me on my phone at 208-863-3940. I've done a lot in the political world, but I've done a lot in the private sector as well. I sold television advertising back in the 1980s, and so I worked with lots of different kinds of commercial businesses and have done that as an advertising agency and a consulting firm over the years. So I've handled and worked with a lot of different kinds of companies, associations, nonprofits, political campaigns, both large and small. I did Butch Otter's first governor's campaign back in 2006 and helped him beat Jerry Brady in that race by 11 points. Butch was great on the stump, and he was still considered a pretty conservative guy back then. He moderated out as he went along, but he was. A lot of people don't remember this about Butch, but when 9/11 happened, there was the Patriot Act was put out there, and Butch was the only person who voted against it because of the civil rights abuses that were within the bill. And sure enough, later on, when it was renewed, those things had to be corrected, and he was absolutely correct on that. But you're right, Kevin. I've handled all kinds of different things, and I enjoy working with people on their advertising, on their public relations. It doesn't matter what it is. I just enjoy working with people and guiding them and trying to do it in a way that's affordable for them, but also is a very effective investment.
Let me hit you with this one. You've been here a long time, and we take a look at the Micron huge facility going up. Nobody's really questioning the environmental impact. Boy, I sound like a liberal here. And then we have Facebook. No one's really questioning the water draw. We talk about being the most unregulated state in the country. Mike Tracy, is Idaho selling out to businesses? How do you see this playing out?
Well, I don't know if it's selling out to businesses. We want to make, leadership has always talked about wanting to make Idaho a business-friendly atmosphere. And, it would be nice if that business-friendly atmosphere would help small businesses more, small to medium-sized businesses. Large corporations do pretty well under the umbrella of what the state of Idaho does and what the local communities do. And it's always the local communities that seem to have take the brunt of things, like what's going on in CUNA with the Facebook. I believe it's a server farm they're building out there, and those facilities do take a lot of water for cooling and other things. And those water rights are, and as long as that facility's there, those water rights are going to be, and the water is going to be used for that specific purpose. And the same thing with Microsoft, or I should say with Micron. Micron has, been an important part of the business landscape for 30, almost 40 years now. They started up in, I think it was 1984. So yeah, this year's 40 years that they've been in business essentially out in that location, and been a very important part of the landscape. I know you have your financial guy on all the time, and he talks about Micron and has talked about Micron frequently over the years, and how it's been an important part of the business landscape. We do have a tendency to, I think, sometimes overreach for the larger businesses instead of helping the small and medium-sized businesses in Idaho, which really need the help with taxes and other rules and regulations. And I wish we would make the rules and regulations at the state level and the local level, city ordinances, more business-friendly. Every time we add more rules and regulations, that's just more money out of the pockets of small and medium-sized businesses. Larger businesses can afford it. It's tougher on the small to medium-sized businesses.
Our great friend Mike Tracy joins us, and yet we have that bias towards the big business. But let's move on a little bit more. Are you amazed that so many people have moved to Idaho that a lot of people don't even know who Butch Otter is or was?
No, I'm not surprised by it. Everywhere I go where I meet new people, they're generally people who have just recently moved here in the last year, the last 5 years, the last 10 years. I mean, and I've met, hundreds, if not thousands of new people over the last 10, 15 years. And it's staggering the number of people who move in here who only know the current governor. And people don't know their elected officials very well anyway. But, the one that they seem to know is the governor. And they might know the mayor of the city that they live in. Other than that, most people don't pay a close attention to elected officials. You and I do within the framework of politics, because we cover it all the time and we talk about it all the time. But when it comes down to really knowing who are making decisions at the policy level for the state, people do not know the history of these individuals and, what background they came out of and how they got to be in power in the first place.
You're right about that. And speaking of power, let's get to ranked choice voting. We're starting to see editorials about it, social media posts about it. Is September, or will it be October when the big money starts flowing in, promoting ranked choice voting that will be on the ballot, Mike?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of the money come in we'll see it in September, but I think we'll really see it in October heavily. It'll build from Labor Day on, and it'll really increase heavily all the way up to Election Day on November 5th. And we start with early voting, about 2 weeks out or so, and there's absentee ballots start a little before then. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be affected by what they see or hear on ranked choice voting. And what I've seen of it is it's not been something that has been real conducive, that has allowed voters the opportunity to choose who they really want to vote for. It creates a really strange model that is not embraced in other states. And the places where it is in place, it really seems to distort what the voting of the local citizens, what their intention actually is. And I've just been, I look at Alaska. That's the model I always go back to, and how many problems they have up there, and the challenges that the Republican Party has had up there with ranked choice voting has been. It's been a nice way for liberals and Democrats to go after the Republican Party in a given state.
And speaking of that, is the Republican Party strong enough to stop this? Because let's face it, we have a lot of politicians that maybe they win the primary, but that's thanks to moderate or even Democrats voting for them. And we can name names or not, but I mean, you have a very interesting blend. We have a very conservative tilt from last May's primary. So will it be just the hardcore Republicans, or are you going to have some prominent current or former Republicans that might back this proposal?
Well, that's yet to be seen. I don't know who's going to come out in favor of this thing. I'm going to watch it very closely. I just don't see. I don't see necessarily prominent Republicans coming out. There's always some that do. They surprise you. But I think you're going to see most Republicans, moderate to conservative, and everything in between, are going to be opposing this, because it really does take the party platform of party apparatus completely out of the system, and doesn't allow Republicans to vote for Republicans, Democrats to vote for Democrats. It really skews the system in a way that is not very effective or fair for people in the party system, which has been a tried and true system for decades, if not 100+ years. And there's always imperfections in every system, but ranked choice voting has not seemed to be a system that works for any state that's used it.
Our great friend Mike Tracy joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Mike, what should we be looking out for?
Well, I think one of the things that the biggest concern I have is at the national level. That's my biggest concern. If we can get Trump back in office, and I've been a big Trump supporter since 2015, 2016. I was one of the earliest ones that came on. If we can get him back in office, we have to. If we don't, we're going to be in real trouble. This country cannot afford 4 more years of essentially a Biden administration. Our country will be decimated by China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and all of our allies around the world. I think are very concerned. I think that's what we need to really look out for. All other elections and all other issues are important, but this national election is one of the most important, if not the most important, I've seen in terms of turning the ship back around and getting us back on course, because we are way off course right now at the national level. And until we get that corrected, the smaller course corrections we can make at the local level almost become insignificant with what can happen to us at the national level.
Mike Tracy, one more time, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
It's pretty easy, Kevin. Thank you for everything. They can just give me a call at 208-863-3940. Be happy to visit with them and help any way I can. And I appreciate the time, Kevin. You have a great morning.
You too, sir. We love the expertise. We'll talk to you next week, sir.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Mike. Idaho City. Ben, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, really good to talk to you today, and I'm excited that I can see blue sky above me today. I don't think anybody's talked about that yet. That's a great thing for the Treasure Valley.
I agree. Congratulations.
Wanted to bring up all politics are local. We definitely feel that way. There's a article by Channel 2 News. I use the Channel 2 News app for local news because KTVB's went way off left field. But this one I feel like needs some reprimand or some change on it. It says Idaho Supreme Court rejects AG Labrador's lawsuit against open primaries. So by reading that heading, that title, I'm thinking, okay, the Attorney General has brought a lawsuit up. They've looked at it and they've decided it's not credible to go forward. That's kind of how I'd read that heading. But you go through the rest of the article, they actually discount their heading in itself because it wasn't rejected on it being a bad case. It was rejected because they said it actually needs to start at a lower district court. And so the actual subtitle, the actual title itself should be Attorney General Labrador alleges that tens of thousands of signatures for the ranked choice voting were brought about by fraud. That should be the title because that's how their story actually shows below. So I feel like there's a couple of things to pull out of this. One, what is Channel 2 News doing polling for? Why are they trying to knock Labrador out? I think he's one of the best politicians we have in our area. Why are they siding with the ranked choice voting? And why are they not given the correct story? I mean, to me, this means we need to, as Idahoans, pay a lot more attention to the ranked choice voting. And I was listening to your previous interview with Mike Tracy there, and I know that Montana is also dealing with some similar pushes by bigger powers and bigger money people. And so I don't understand ranked choice voting enough to give a weight on it, but this kind of stuff really worries me that you're going to pull down a voted in popular Idaho AG, Attorney General by misleading it with this article title and pull out the whole rest of the story, which is that if there's tens of thousands, they said that you need 63,000 votes to get it on the ballot. If tens of thousands, which to me would be about 20,000 of those signatures are brought about by fraud, that's a third of the signatures. So I think that this should be the story for the rest of the week. We need to figure out what's Channel 2 News doing. Are those signatures done in fraud? And what's going on here? What's your thoughts?
Ben, this is what I love about this program. We hear what you have to say. The people at Channel 2 News are listening. What do you want to say to them directly? Just talk to them directly.
I want to say to them that if you are going to write an article, and this one says it's done by the CBS 2 News staff, I want to know the local news. I love hearing about what the forest fires are doing, what kind of accidents are happening throughout the valley, things that impact my family, things that impact how I'm going about my day. But when it comes to the political things, you have to leave that political hat at the door. Whether you're a strong Republican, strong Democrat, don't care either way, you need to leave it at the door. And this title of this article is very misleading. Your article completely rejects the title itself. And I'll be honest, and I don't know if they do this intentionally, but when I go through the news app itself, there's probably 20 or 30 different, news stories when I'm scanning through, and I don't read them all. Most of the time, I just look at that title, and that's what I get as the news, because I don't sit down and read every article word for word. So hopefully you're not doing that intentionally by using an article title that is completely misleading to the article itself.
Well, I think Channel 2 got the message. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, for letting me get that out there.
All right, Ben, we appreciate it. Oh, well, we missed Doug.
So they can play in their freaking garden, smoke their pot, drink their fancy wine, and eat their caviar like the liberals do.
Thank you for listening, Kevin Miller.
AIDO Talk Radio.
Hello, Doug. Hello, Doug.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we lost Doug. It's just one of those days people go, well, Kevin Miller, your show is kind of clunky. Well, we're all about the clunk here. We appreciate Doug for calling in, and hopefully we'll get a hold of him, but it's like an old shoe. We're not Tesla here. We're more like, I guess, a VW Beetle, or I'm trying to think of it, or a Ford Taurus, or a Toyota Camry, or something of that nature, right? Maybe that would be applicable. It's certainly not a Cybertruck here. We apologize to Doug, but we can't wait there. It's, we live in this world of instant gratification, unfortunately. Of course, in the 6 o'clock hour, it's a little easier to get away with that than in the 8 o'clock hour, or the 7, or the 9. Coming up next, Kent Goldthorpe. I don't know what Kent's going to talk about. He goes, do you want me on this week? I go, do you have any good content, Kent? Well, we'll find out. High today. It's not easy being Kent. High today of 91, low tonight 61. High tomorrow 86. And it looks like it's going to be in the upper 80s, lower 90s Saturday. If you're going out, maybe you're going to the mountains, maybe you're going for a walk, 98, which is better than 108. Is it not? Talking about a few other things here. Earlier, we were talking about the DEI hire, that if Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, so is Tim Walz. For all his political baggage, he's a 2-term governor, former representative from an electoral crucial region of the country. We'll get back to that in a minute, but the scary thing about Kamala Harris is nobody voted for her. Legitimately. Nobody has voted for her. Maybe you could argue, I guess it would be the same analogy that Gerald Ford, when he took over for Nixon, Spiro Agnew was his original vice president, and then all of a sudden Spiro had to go, and then Nixon came in. But you take a look at how dangerous Kamala Harris is. Think about this at 580-5436-580-KIDO from the National Review. In her first election to statewide office as Attorney General, in 2010, she got 46.1% of the vote and won by a whopping total of 0.8%. She won by a whopping total of 0.8% as a Democrat in California. Now, it was the Tea Party year. It was a red wave year, but she was the only statewide Democrat who couldn't manage a majority. When she ran again in 2016, California's unique system kept Republicans off the November ballot, and Harris actually got less popular votes, 39.9% without a Republican on the ballot, as they call it, the June jungle primary. And then she was able to run against fellow Democrat Loretta Sanchez in the fall. And in 2019, her presidential bid collapsed. Maybe this is good news, but if she's elected, it ain't going to be good for us, little buddies. Justin in Meridian with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Oh, it is my man, Justin Stevens. How you been, man? What's going on, brother?
Well, I am on the way to drop my kids off for their first day of school.
And your thoughts on that, young man?
Well, I think parenting is the most stressful yet important job we have in our society. And I just wanted to come on and celebrate all the parents out there that are making it happen. They're figuring out, how do we get our kids educated? How do we put food on the table? Because I think it can be a thankless job a lot of the time.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that. When you think of just what you have to go through and the stress, and then you got to deal with the other parents, and it's no fun, but thank goodness we have great parents, or we wouldn't have us, Justin.
Exactly. And that's the thing I hope to remind everybody is, as hard as parenting is, it is by far the most rewarding thing we can do as a human, I think. Now, that is biased because I am a parent, but it's what keeps our society functioning. And so I just wanted to celebrate.
Rural State Rescue Idaho, he always starts his day listening to us. He and his beautiful wife, Jerry, we appreciate them listening, and we appreciate everyone listening. And again, it's so funny. I was driving around Boise State yesterday, and it was, I don't want to say it was interesting, because everybody says, oh, it was interesting. It was interesting seeing all the old people move their kids in. And I really caught the irony of that. Think about that for a moment, the irony of what's going on. Here you have the moms and the dads, mainly the dads, that were moving with these big barrels and stuff their kids in. And I'm thinking, isn't that nice? Dear old dad taking time off to move the kid in. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Shouldn't the young people be doing this? Obviously, they're more fit and set up to haul in the stuff, and it's their stuff. Aren't we not teaching them responsibility by doing it for them? I know you're going, Kevin, that's extreme. That's really extreme. But I thought, that's a great gig if you can get it. Hey, Dad, I'm moving in today. Where are you at? 7th floor, no elevator. Come on, Dad. You can do it. All right. So for those people, whether it's College of Idaho, whether it's NNU, whether it's Boise State, CWI, you're driving to Lewis and Clark, you're going to Idaho State, you're going to Idaho, or as they say on television, Idaho, you're going to Idaho. You're doing a great thing. And I know college isn't cheap. Heck, nothing is cheap in Joe Biden's America. Joining us now, our intrepid roving reporter of Canyon County and beyond. Wait for it, everybody. Here's David Ferdinand on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, David.
Hey, thank you, Kevin. Yes, it is a great morning. And, it is still rodeo week in Caldwell. You know that, right?
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, there's buckaroo breakfast all week. And hey, I we invited you out. I wanted you to come to our, this is our, started in 1954, the chuck wagon, which is all the corn you can eat. The Crookham Company plants a field of this corn, and it's called Amazing Corn. And it is the greatest sweet corn. Anyway, it's all you can eat. The Kiwanis Club of Caldwell puts this on every year at the C of I across from the rodeo grounds. So we want you to come out and enjoy all this corn. And maybe I'll have to bring you some.
Now, that's dedication if you're going to bring me some corn. The corn is great going in. It's just coming out that has our troubles. What does this mean to the community of Caldwell and Canyon County?
Oh, man, this is, the Kiwanis Club, of course, does kids projects, and these guys are a great group over in Caldwell. And Erin is the president this year, and she's just doing a great job. What does it mean for the community? We have all the fact is, I think the C of I girls volleyball players are going to be helping tonight. I think we've had the Boys and Girls Club out there. This is for community projects. It helps fund all of these kinds of things. But most importantly, some of the people said they come for the corn. And it's incredible. Of course, pulled pork and all the other, beans and stuff that come with it. But it's the community. It's something for the community to come out to, and it's, of course, support and helps the entire community with all of these great projects that the Kiwanis Club does. And, it's part of the rodeo. I mean, it's the history. Think about this, 1954. Of course, this is the 100th year of the rodeo in Caldwell, known affectionately as the Caldwell Night Rodeo. You understand that where they came up with that, right?
I did see the story on Channel 6+1 last night, but please, for all of us that don't know, go ahead.
Wow. I mean, it's, the old idea was is Canyon County has a couple of great rodeos. This Snake River Stampede was known for their star, and of course the Caldwell Night Rodeo wanted to be known for this. It's the best rodeo. That's what they were saying. And so they called it the Caldwell Night Rodeo so that everybody would know this is the time to come out and see the cowboys, where the cowboys are the stars. That was the whole idea.
Yeah, because apparently that almost went the rodeo went broke because they paid too much for a big singer years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think I saw that person. Well, the rodeo grounds used to be over there by the kit factory, and the airport was over there. All that stuff was over there. When they moved everything over to Blaine and the Cleveland Street corridor in Caldwell, they built a really nice facility. And, of course, Canyon County Fair expanded. And it is a great facility. It's a great place where people can get together and just enjoy the great weather that we've had. The only problem is some of that smoke, but it looks like it's clearing up, Kevin.
Not bad indeed. A little rain coming in, and hopefully that'll help it all.
Yeah, well, the Chuck Wagon takes place at the C of I, where you can pull in and park and enjoy the shade of those great sycamore trees in front of the C of I Simplot Hall, and it's a great thing to do, especially for the entire community, for the family. Bring them all out. Prices are good, and listen, all the corn you can eat. That Crookham sweet corn is the greatest stuff. You got to taste it, Kevin.
I believe you, David. I believe you.
All right. Well, listen, we'll see you out there. Starts at 5:30, goes to about 7:30. Longer if we have more people. But tonight's the last night of the Chuck Wagon. Of course, not the last night of the rodeo. So you can enjoy that, and of course enjoy the Buckaroo breakfast as well.
By the way, tell your boy Steve we need to get you and Art and Steve on to talk about the foundation.
Okay. That sounds good. Let's do that.
Steve keeps reaching out to me, but obviously you're involved with the foundation, the historical foundation. You'll give me the correct name in a moment, but that really honors Idaho's broadcasters.
Yeah, History of Idaho Broadcasting Foundation. Great group of people, and of course with Art Gregory digging up all the history. You talk about history, that guy. He's got he knows all the dates, all the times, all the call letters, and who was doing what when. I mean, this guy's something else. His book on KIDO is a great book. And we'll get Steve on there, and maybe Art, and you want us to just call in, or should we?
We'll just have a roundtable with you guys when you can get the schedule. I just haven't called Steve back yet.
All right, we'll do it. I'll give him a holler. Tell him to get a hold of you.
He has already. Anyway, David Ferdinand, thank you very much.
All right, man. See you at the Chuck Wagon. Talk to you later.
At the Chuck Wagon. Lots of corn in Caldwell.
Yes.
David Ferdinand, our great friend, always. And by the way, why don't you help out the local Kiwanis Club, even if you're not going to the Caldwell Night Rodeo? Check out the Chuck Wagon, brought to you by the Kiwanis Club, right across from the stadium. Why not the arena? Check that out and get some corn. Endless corn. Who would not want endless corn, at least going in? Kevin, by the way, Riley Gaines joining us coming up at 8:35. That's right, the Riley Gaines. She's coming to Idaho. Why is she coming to Idaho, Kevin Miller? We'll find out. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So here we have it. Vance and Tim Walz agreed for an October 1st debate. Governor Walz responded by reposting the message from his campaign account. Apparently, that is going to be rolling. Of course, the first debate will be, September 10th, is it? September 10th, between Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump, Vice President Harris, former President Trump. Let's see, much like the 2024 presidential nominees, former President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, Vice President Kamala Harris, blah, blah, blah. On Wednesday, CBS posted on X that it invited Vance and Waltz to a debate in New York City. Big time. Anyway, Waltz reposted, "See you on October 1st, JD." We don't know who will be moderating that debate, but again, I was just sending an email to the Godless Corporation saying, this is going to be bigger than, I hate to say this, 2016. And who would have ever thought that? Who would have ever really thought that it would be bigger than 2016? But it apparently, there's more at stake. And like I said, whether you like someone or not, just take a look at their actions, their inactions. As we disclosed to you earlier, the Inflation Reduction Act. Hey, America. Hey, Idaho. How's that working out for you? Shockingly, a Philadelphia woman, by the way, the media identifies her as a black Philadelphia woman, not just a Philadelphia woman. Shockingly, she says the Bidenomics is killing her. Very emotional here on KIDO Talk Radio.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
What do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't eat, but I have to go work.
She says it all right there. She says it all right there. And then you've got the vice president not answering questions, not having a town hall. Remember that? Where are the town halls, everybody? Where are the town halls? Why isn't the vice president holding a news conference?
To a press conference this week. This past week. That's why we're doing a bus tour in Pennsylvania as we head into Chicago. And it's why we'll sit down for an interview before the end of the month to make sure that we can have a deep dive conversation about the vision that Kamala Harris has for where she wants to take this country and the contrast that we're going to have with Donald Trump. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that throughout the rest of but one interview by the end of the month. This month and throughout the rest of the campaign.
I don't want to belabor this, but one interview before the end of the month. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, can you commit to a press conference before the end of the month?
We will commit to directly engage with the voters that are actually going to decide this election. And that is going to be complete with rallies, with sit-down interviews, with press conferences, with all the digital assets that we have at our disposal. We are running a campaign that is built to communicate with the voters that are actually going to decide the pathway to 270 electoral votes. We are confident in the plan that we have in place, and we're going to execute on that plan.
In other words, we don't need you, you useful idiot. I wonder how she's going to communicate with this lady.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
What do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't eat, but I have to go work.
Yes. Think about that. At 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Here you have a young lady or a not so young lady telling it like it is. And you know what the difference is between a recession and a depression? A recession is when your neighbor's out of work. A depression is when everyone is out of work. And we have people wondering about taxing tips because that's a big deal. I understand it's a big deal. I get it. It's a very big deal. But on the other hand, think about the people that are hurting and suffering. And yet now Joe Biden, who actually is meeting with the press, says that the economy is doing really well.
The U.S. beat inflation, Mr. President.
Yes. I told you we're going to have a soft landing. We're going to have a soft landing. My policies are working. Start writing that way, okay?
All right. Okay. From our friends at Fox News on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Joe Biden, and maybe this is the Let's Go Brandon campaign. This is the FU Joe Biden campaign. Maybe he's just decided the Democratic Party has turned on me. Kamala Harris now is distancing herself from the Biden policies that actually made her a legitimate national candidate. The Biden policies that actually made her the VP, that made her a national name instead of the joke that she was in California. And when you think about this, Joe Biden is, again, meeting with the press. So Joe is being a good Joe. He has bit the bullet, bit the pillow, done everything he could, done everything he was told to do. And now he's out there blatantly lying again. But at least he's meeting the media. And it looks like he's on the good drugs.
The U.S. beat inflation, Mr. President.
Yes. I told you we're going to have a soft landing. We're going to have a soft landing. My policies are working. Start writing that way, okay?
All right. Yeah. Let me just say this. This is bad. But you could see this. You ever been involved in internal politics? You know, whether you're a kid, you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a manager, it sometimes isn't black and white. There's many shades of gray. How would this look politically? I believe that old Joe has decided, I'm going to show her how to do it. I'm going to show her how to do it. And what I'm going to do is very simply, I'm going to go out and talk to anybody that'll talk to me, because pretty soon, no one will be talking to me, because I'll be in the clink with my brother Jim and my son, Sonny Boy Hunter. And on the other hand, we've got the former president that everybody loves in Idaho, as they say on television. I don't know why they do that. Idaho. Am I missing something? Do the native peoples here, the native mountain people, call it Idaho? I always thought it was Idaho. And as you know, listening to this program, I have a difficult time enough just pronouncing the regular words like business or the or cat or dog. Never mind Idaho. Anyway, everyone in Idaho except the libs loves this man.
Being a totally disrespected person 6 weeks ago, nobody thought she had a chance. Nobody, and I don't think she can possibly win. If she does, our country is finished. You want to know the truth. But she was totally disrespected. The most unpopular vice president in the history of our country. For nearly 4 years, Kamala has crackled as the American economy has burned. What happened to her laugh? I haven't heard that laugh in about a week. That's why they keep her off the stage. That's why she's disappeared. That's the laugh of a crazy person, I will tell you, if you haven't known it. It's a crazy. She's crazy. They told her, don't laugh. Don't laugh. No, it's...
All right, thank you very much. Coming up next, Riley Gaines. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Stop freaking, call Beacon. Girls podcast on Outkick and Fox Nation. She endorsed Ron DeSantis for president in 2023. Expressed support for President Trump after the assassination attempt. You remember her. She's a 12-time NCAA All-American. Only 24 years old, and it's amazing. It seems like she's been around forever, and of course she's from the SEC, which just means more. If you're familiar with the Southeastern Conference, we'll figure that out. So we'll get with her. She is coming to Idaho, and that will be coming up on August 28th in Meridian. That is where you can go to IdahoMajorityClub.com for tickets. We appreciate that. And joining us now is Riley Gaines. Riley, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Idaho, ma'am.
Well, thank you. I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled to be on with you. And, of course, in the state of Idaho, what I believe to be the most underrated state in the nation. It is so beautiful here.
Well, that means a lot coming from somebody from the SEC.
Hey, now, I didn't say the SEC is not the best conference, because then I would be lying if I said that. The SEC absolutely is the best conference. But, you know, if University of Idaho, all these other schools in Idaho want to join, feel free. It's what Oklahoma's doing. It's what Texas is doing. So it seems to be that they're letting anybody in nowadays.
No, I'm with you. I spent a lot of time in the SEC and worked with a young man by the name of Paul Feinbaum, and remember Clay Travis when he was just a blogger. So I'm familiar with your kind, ma'am.
Well, hopefully you have only good things to say.
No, I'm a big fan, and certainly you're coming to Idaho. Can you tell us a little bit about your trip to the Gem State?
I sure am. I'm coming to Idaho. Super duper excited about it. I will be sharing a message of, I guess, one, what it takes to be an elite athlete. I believe it's important for people to understand what a little bit more in depth of that national championships, what we experienced in terms of the unfair competition, in terms of the locker room scene, what that looked like, in terms of the silencing that we faced from our universities. I guess answering the question of how we got here, the trajectory of where we're going, the impact that's been had over these past, 2 years or so, and what we as everyday people, as your common sense Americans who intuitively know that men and women are different, what we can do to combat the cultural chaos that we are seeing really plague this country. And so it will be with the Idaho Majority Club. As I said, super excited about it. It is on the 28th of this month. So really exciting things. I hope that they expect a pretty big turnout, and so I hope to see a bunch of you there.
Well, and Riley, there are so many questions, but I like to, especially when we have, someone like you, which there's no one like you, I just like to get out of the way. So, you're an incredible athlete, a world-class athlete, and all of a sudden you're in the midst of a political argument, and all you wanted to do was just swim and compete and win fairly, and you're only 24. What a wild ride you've had in the last 2 to 4 years, ma'am.
That's to put it lightly. It really has been a whirlwind. As you said, this is never something that I wanted. This is never something that I sought after. Even still, this isn't something that I want to be doing. I think you have to be clinically insane to want to be in the position that I have seemingly found myself in. But nonetheless, it is a worthwhile stand. It is a necessary stand, and I would argue that it's an urgent stand. But after college, to your point, I was in dental school to be a dentist, actually set to specialize in endodontics, which is root canals. And so now having a better understanding of the political sphere, spending my time really as an activist, which I was hesitant to call myself at first, because when you hear the word activist, you might, think how I did initially and think of someone with purple hair who's screeching. But I'm very proud to call myself an activist now. I believe as a conservative, we need more activists, people who are on the ground, willing to do what it takes to, again, continue spreading awareness, highlighting the problems that are being had, but doing everything they can to make impact to ensure that it doesn't continue happening.
Riley Gaines joining us. She's coming to Idaho August 28th, IdahoMajorityClub.com for tickets. Riley, let's talk a little bit about your experience as an American and the First Amendment. We all know, and even people in Idaho were covering your story of what happened to you at San Francisco University.
Yeah, man, it's crazy to understand that that's what we're up against. For merely, to be very clear, for merely saying that there are two sexes and that you can change your sex and that each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, privacy, and safety. But for saying that, I've been met with, I've been called every name in the book. I've been met with, petty personal attacks, often through social media. But in many cases, like at San Francisco State University, I've been met with violence. This instance in particular, I mean, I was totally ambushed by hundreds of protesters. They entered into the classroom. I was speaking in a classroom setting to a bunch of students. The protesters entered in. They turned the lights off in the back of the room. They rushed to the front, and they attacked me. I mean, I'm being pushed. I'm being shoved. I'm being punched in the face by these men wearing dresses, which, fortunately for me, their punches really don't hurt that bad. But they ended up holding me for ransom for almost, 4 or 5 hours, demanding that if I wanted to make it home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money. That's, again, just to show you why people are scared. Understandably so, why people are terrified, because the risk and the threats, they exist. But even still, 10 times out of 10, it's worth it.
Riley Gaines joining us here on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Again, for being through such all this turmoil at such a young age, incredible life lessons. Did you ever just think you want to peace out and just go back to dental school?
All the time. All the time. It's easy to see what's going on around us, to talk to people, just your everyday people who have been affected by this movement, girls who have lost out on opportunities or who have been exploited in locker rooms, or many girls who have been injured in their sports. It's easy to see all of this going on and think to myself, this is an uphill battle. We're never going to win, especially when we have, the elected representation that we have, whether it's the local level, state level, or federal level. We're up against a giant here. It would be easy to peace out. It'd be really safe, honestly, secure for me. I could continue on with dental school. I was in the top percentile nationally of the DAT, the dental admissions test. I got married in my senior year of high school, of college, excuse me. It would have been really easy for me to peace out and continue down with the career path that I had planned for myself. But I realize now that the quickest way to make God laugh in your face is to make plans for yourself. So before anything, I want to follow and listen to his calling for me, really lean into that. And over these past 2 years, well, yes, of course, I would say it's fairly easy to understand how I'm fighting for objective truth, for biological reality. More importantly to me, as a Christian, I'm fighting for biblical truth. Bible's very clear. He created male and female intentionally and uniquely in his perfect image, and to alter that or attempt to alter that or to deny that is a sin. It's laid out very clearly, and so I think that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me reassured, knowing that the battle has already been won. That's why I'm able to do what I do, truthfully, with a smile on my face and an incredibly light heart.
Our great friend Riley Gaines joining us, coming to Idaho August 28th. We'll tell you where you can get tickets in a minute. But first, going back to the dudes that want to be young ladies, when did it hit you as an elite, collegiate Olympic level swimmer that it was all unfair, ma'am?
So we found out about who Leah Thomas, formerly known as Will Thomas, we found out who this was in November of 2021, that he existed, that he was potentially going to be competing with us. We knew he was competing in the women's category, but he was competing in the Ivy Leagues. We didn't think we'd have to compete against him in the SEC. But then the NCAA announced that at our national championship meet, which was, of course, the entire nation, he would be allowed to compete with us. And we found this out in March of 2022, just about 3 weeks before our national championships. So I never even for a second thought it was right or thought it was fair or moral or just by any means. But you almost look at the scenario, the cards you've been dealt, and I think it was our initial reaction, and I say our because I'm speaking for my teammates too, my coaches, and you almost instinctually, inherently want to laugh at it because it's like an SNL skit, or it's like a Babylon Bee headline, or a South Park episode, which is objectively meant to be funny. And I think that's the kind of gut reaction that we had until we were directly faced with it. And then I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed for ever thinking this was comical, for ever being remotely intrigued or curious about what this was going to look like, because in those moments, seeing how tall he was, seeing a man to be, I mean, just brutally explicit and honest here, a man in a women's swimsuit with a bulge and his Adam's apple and his huge feet that covered up the entire blocks. Yes, it was still almost that satirical image in your head, but this was reality now. No one was laughing. No, I saw tears. I heard whispers of anger and frustration from girls who, just like myself, had worked their entire lives to get to this moment. And so to sum all that up, we never thought it was right. None of us did. But we just didn't think it would reach the point where this would actually become reality like it was.
Riley Gaines joining us. You can catch her in Idaho, A Night with Riley Gaines, August 28th. Let's see. Visit IdahoMajority.com for club.com for tickets. It's at the event center in Meridian. Let me hit you with this one, though. Were you surprised? And again, whether you live in Idaho or Iowa, everybody knows the Southeastern Conference and everybody knows the NCAA. What was the reaction of you and other female athletes that they were allowing biological men to compete against you in an unfair competition? I mean, were you surprised that no one in the woke sports media or perhaps the woke collegiate conferences said enough with this nonsense?
So I knew bias, especially media bias. I knew that existed at the time, but I had no idea to what extent. I thought surely, ESPN wouldn't even talk about the issue. And when they did talk about it, they honored Thomas that same month, as, which of course March is Women's History Month. They honored Thomas as this brave and strong woman who has overcome so much persecution to achieve the seemingly impossible and win a national title. I was appalled when I heard that. Thinking about the NCAA, our universities even, these were institutions that I trusted, that I loved, and that I trusted. I trusted had my best interests. I trusted would protect me like they constantly touted. They were constantly saying that they were looking out for us. They were looking out for our mental health and for our opportunities for achievement and for success. But in that week-long meet, I had my eyes open and I realized they were not looking out for us. They didn't care about us. That was the message that we were receiving loud and clear, is that we weren't worthy. We as women weren't worthy of privacy. We weren't worthy of safety in our sports. We weren't worthy of equal opportunity or fairness or maintaining our dignity. No, the message I got loud and clear from the NCAA, the International Olympic Committee, our universities, the list goes on, the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris in the White House. The message that we received is that we exist to validate the feelings and the identity of a man. I believe a lot of it also, these groups, these organizations, whether, again, it's academia or corporate America or the media, the government, what have you, I don't believe they follow red or blue. I believe that they follow green. And it was hard to come to that realization that, again, the NCAA, they had totally sold us out as women, as female athletes.
A Night with Riley Gaines in Idaho. For more information, IdahoMajorityClub.com for tickets. It's in Meridian, August 28th. We take a look at Riley, and you can catch her, host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick and Fox Nation. But what is the message we're sending to not only young ladies like you, but little girls? And it seems to be the death of Title IX, and yet we don't have any, pro-women feminist group taking the side of women.
No, these feminist groups, right? You think of groups like the National Organization of Women, now the leading feminist group for the past, 50, 60, 70 years even. The group that really fought for Title IX. Gosh, how far we have come. This is the group that wore the pink hats, burned the bras, all that kind of thing. They just released an article not too long ago that called me, they called me a white supremacist patriarchist. I don't even know what that means. I don't know how they can call me the patriarchist when I'm the one fighting to exclude men from female-only opportunities. Even most recently testifying before Congress, which I have had the displeasure of doing so many times now. Most recently, I was sat next to the president of the National Women's Law Center, a law center dedicated to fighting for and maintaining the rights of women. And in her opening testimony, the president of the National Women's Law Center said that women should just learn how to lose more gracefully to men. And I remember hearing this and just looking over at her. And again, you can't help but almost chuckle at the irony, at the hypocrisy, at the double standard of it all. This woman claims to be fighting for women. She claims that this is progressive, indicating, the progress, that we are moving in the positive forward direction. But how in the world does she not realize what she just said is, one, deeply misogynistic, and two, utterly regressive, taking us back in time at least half a century to before Title IX was implemented.
Riley Gaines, what's it like to be a 12-time NCAA All-American?
It's often forgotten about, which, I never competed or anything for any sort of national recognition or attention or fame or anything like that. But it is pretty cool now, being 2 years removed from competing at the collegiate level and to really look back at all the accomplishments that I had. 12-time All-American. I'm a 5-time SEC champion, actually even still the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time. Qualified for Olympic trials in 2016 at only 15 years old, was one of the youngest people there. Then again in 2020, which really rolled into 2021 because of COVID, I was the SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year. I was the SEC Community Service Leader of the Year. And so again, just to reiterate, these are accomplishments that I will forever be proud of. And to highlight, it's a lifelong journey to be able to compete and ultimately succeed at that level. But that same determination, that same grit, that same leadership that I had when competing, it's more useful in my life now, the skill sets, than it even was when I was swimming. I love the pressure. I love setting goals and working to achieve those goals. I love I'm feeling like I'm doing something that's bigger than just me. And all of that, again, is being applied in the fight that I'm fighting now.
Very courageous, Riley Gaines. You can catch her in Idaho, August 28th, IdahoMajorityClub.com for tickets. Okay, I have to ask you, we have Clay. We carry the Clay and Buck show. I know you've been on it. I'm sure you heard the Clay Travis pants story where he bought a bunch of pants. He thought he was going to make a lot of money, was outkicked the coverage. And all these, I can't imagine what it's like to work with Clay Travis. Can you give us a Clay Travis story?
Clay is being involved in this space, right? There's a lot of different personalities, people who I've looked up to for a long time. And then you meet them and they're not the same person who you think they are. They're snobby or what have you, or they don't really live by what they preach. But Clay Travis is, to this day, he is the most genuine, he is the most intentional, he is the most, smart. He is the smartest person. And so I really, really value him. I value his friendship. I value his advice on topics. I'll reach out to him and say, hey, they just asked me to go on Fox News and talk about a tax bill. Can you help me? I don't know what I'm talking about. He's so awesome. And so he still has, I believe, a ton of those pants in his in the basement of his house. And so if you guys want some, I'm sure that he can ship them your way. But Clay is great.
Oh, Riley, you're great. We will look forward to seeing you here in Idaho, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon.
All right, there we have it. Riley Gaines on KIDO Talk Radio. A Night with Riley Gaines, August 28th in Meridian. There I find it. It's at the Galaxy Event Center. It took me a while to find that. IdahoMajorityClub.com for tickets. Very affordable tickets. And, thank you, Riley, for coming to Idaho. Gaines for Girls is her podcast. And I'm just looking at her resume. 12-time NCAA All-American, swam for Kentucky, made the Olympic trials at 16, and then it during 2021 as well. Just amazing. And only 24. Whew, amazing. And she's tied in with our friend Clay and Buck. You don't want to miss that. That is Clay and Buck today. Remember, they're on from 10 to 1 right before Sean Hannity. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.